Hello everyone and welcome back to Assassin's Creed Valhalla with me, longclawvalhalla and Steel, where we always deliver. Eivor has travelled all the way up to the frozen north again to visit a very old friend of his, Jarl Hemming, and his son Vili. Now, Vili is Eivor's childhood friend, and this summons is rather special. You see, Jarl Hemming is unwell. He knows that he's reaching the end of his days, and he needs Eivor's help to choose his successor. Is it going to be his son and his natural heir, or his oldest and fiercest warrior? This is quite an interesting story arc, something very different, and I always enjoy it when I get to use my detective skills. So let's see how we get on. Don't forget to like and share and subscribe and check out the channel for all the other content. Now let's get into it. Well, although there isn't that much fighting involved in this, there is some combat, but there's no major fortress takedowns or anything like that. There is a clear gear change here. This is a seriously high-ranking story arc. You need to be level 250 to approach this, and I'm only about 195, so it shows you can do it. But the things are getting a little bit more serious for Eivor. He's using his detective skills here, as I say, and this is more about him making emotional and important choices which will affect the story arc as we go forward, and also affect the remaining part of the story missions and the story campaign. So right away, straight off the bat, we're trying to find a Pict warrior inside a Pict fortress, and the Picts, remember, are the Scottish warriors that border with the northern Viking tribes. At the end of this little opening sequence, Jarl Hemming, he is taken ill. He was injured in battle, and this just expedites the whole process for him. He is coming to the end of his days as a Viking ruler, and he sits Eivor down and explains that it couldn't be more important to him to make the right decision, and he really values Eivor's input here. Do you choose the younger and rightful heir to his kingdom, his son Vili and your childhood friend, who really doesn't want to be Jarl, or do you choose his most staunch commander and his most experienced warrior Tryggv, who deserves and probably would make a very good Jarl? And let's see how this plays out. Tryggv is a very level-headed Viking and comes with a huge amount of experience, and you get to play with both of them here. You spend a bit of time with both of these men and can start observing them and making decisions. In this next sequence, we need to help rescue some of the villagers whose houses are on fire, and Tryggv and Vili are both involved here. Tryggv is tending to the injured Vikings, and you and Vili are running around breaking open doors and carrying people to safety. And this just shows that both men have a role to play, perhaps one differently to the others, but equally no less important. So as I'm doing this, I'm starting to think about the potential outcome for having chosen one or the other of these two men to be the Jarl. And I'm also not sure if there is a further impact in the game story arc for having chosen one or the other. I need to spend more time with Vili and have a discussion with him about how he sees his destiny, and we all know that Vikings follow the path of destiny and fate, and they really consider that Viking life is very much drawn up for them, and they have to just simply walk through it. And Vili has made some suggestions to Eivor that he would prefer to spend his life raiding and have more adventures like when they were younger together. And there is an option here, I think, for me to invite him into my own clan and bring him into my crew, and he can come and stay with us in Ravensthorpe, and that would make this decision process much easier, because then you can choose Trigiv and Vili will be happy. But I'm not sure that would necessarily be the best outcome for the settlement in Snotinghamshire. Remember that this is one of the largest settlements in England, and I think whoever you choose to remain there and be the Jarl, I have a suspicion that may have an impact on the further story arcs, and certainly when you call for aid. There's also some preparations to do. Everybody is kind of aware that Jarl Hemming is about to pass, so we need to prepare for his final days, his funeral pyre, and he's actually pretty much ready to go, and he has a few final statements to make to his son, to Eivor, and to Trigiv, who are the three closest to him at this stage. And I find it interesting that he summoned Eivor to be part of this, knowing full well that this decision can impact the people that he's ruled over. I think that this is why he wants Eivor to be part of this decision-making process. And as I say, this is a definite gear change. Things have chilled out a lot in this story arc. There's been some pretty heavy-duty combat, and it's all about fighting, and essentially the Northern Vikings are at war with the Picts, so that's been definitely the theme running through the last few story arcs. But this particular one, everything chills out, and it's more about these emotional decisions that Eivor needs to make and needs to help these other characters come to terms with. So it's a very interesting twist on the role-playing responsibilities within the game. Because this is a massive Viking funeral, Eivor has called his clan to come and pay their respects, and there are certain things that Eivor needs to do to prepare for the passing, and Trigiv has taken responsibility for preparing this massive funeral pyre. But Eivor also has things that he must decide and do. Each Viking leader or clan must present a specific Viking gift, which will be placed on the funeral pyre and burnt along with the Viking warrior, and that will then see him off to Valhalla with all of the riches and splendour that he deserves in life. And in this next sequence, Eivor meets with Vili, and they discuss meeting with a hermit somewhere deep in the mountain caves, who has the skill required to paint a shield with the required design to pay tribute to a Jarl with a status such as Jarl Hemming. And this is a kind of interesting. You have to stack some stones in the right way to stop them from falling off, so it's just something a little bit different. But there are also little decisions and little conversations which are all pointing towards the decision that Eivor has to make, and it's starting to be suggested that he could potentially put his own name out there and put himself in the running for the Jarl, and that is kind of interesting, as I've never considered that. I mean, Eivor's not really getting the respect he deserves from his brother Sigurd, and the Ravensthorpe clan seems to be, Sigurd's to command. So having his own kingdom, his own jarlship somewhere else in the country might not be a bad idea, and that does perk my interest up, but it isn't really expanded upon at this stage. And here, after visiting a seer who suggests that meditating on top of this mountaintop, you get this very sort of Dumbledore, Harry Potter post-death scene where Eivor gets to have that one last interaction with Jarl Hemming and discuss with him why it's so important for Eivor to be involved in this decision-making process, and why Jarl Hemming sees it as Eivor's destiny to help people make these kind of decisions, that he has imparted his wisdom throughout his entire life. So suggesting that this is really a mentor figure for Eivor, which has not been discussed up to this point. Of course, we met Eivor as a young Viking warrior, and we don't really know his backstory other than the fact that he lost his parents when he was very young. Even as far as having a combat with Jarl Hemming, just to to stretch Eivor's muscles and get him to really understand his own strength. Jarl Hemming is just testing Eivor continuously over and over again, and this is a supremely difficult boss fight because, as I say, Jarl Hemming is rank 250, and he's also equipped with almost all of the skills from the skill tree, which makes it incredibly difficult to fight him. But it can be done. You need to work very, very closely on your dodging and using the right kind of attacks and avoiding all of the heavy attacks, and he will transport himself between two mountain peaks, and you can run across, and that gives you an opportunity to do some long range damage to him, which is the best way to work down his health. But it takes a lot of work to get him on his knees. And of course, this is not about death and destruction. This is purely a test, and it's really Jarl Hemming in his last moments before passing through the gates into Odin's Hall. He wanted to just put, metaphorically, Eivor through a series of tests to get him ready to make this massive decision. And now back with the other characters. It's all about preparation for this final huge Viking farewell, and of course directly after that will come the Athling, which is where they choose the successor. And you cannot have an open seat. There needs to be someone ruling over that kingdom. And right now, I'll tell you, my thoughts are that I think Tryggvi would make a better Jarl for this settlement, and it would be better for Vili and for Eivor to team up and go back to Ravensthorpe together and to bring him into the crew. Remember that as you're going through the story arc, you're taking certain members from each story arc into your crew if you've been playing the game correctly. And I already have Breeder and Rolo and some of the other characters as well. And I think getting them all together and organising your crew in such a way that you have this kind of elite Avenger force is going to make it really fun when you go through and play out the remaining part of the story campaign. So that's where my head is right now, and it definitely seems to be the way that Vili can see would like to see this play out. And as we prepare for the final farewell, there's a couple more emotional scenes. Eivor and Vili have been friends since they were very young, and you can see that they're very, very close. And it's interesting as we get closer to it, you start to see almost Vili taking more responsibility and acting more like a Jarl, and it's now making me think, is he the better choice? And to be honest, by making the decision that Vili takes the Jarl position, it doesn't really have a huge effect, but there is a massive choice decision that you need to make here, because Tryggvi wants to throw himself on this pyre and burn himself alive as a sacrifice to his Jarl, and I'm pretty sure that he's going to end up chucking himself on there if I don't choose him to be the Jarl. And given the fact that Vili has said that he doesn't want this position as Jarl, I'm thinking that that's the better outcome, because I don't want to see Tryggvi throw himself on the pyre. So after an emotional speech with Eivor by his side, it's time to light the funeral pyre, and everyone will place their farewell goods, and their acts of worship will be all completed, and then there is nothing left to do but to set the pyre alight and then prepare for the Athling. And it's time for Eivor to make the decision that has been coming throughout the entire story arc, and it's all about reminding everyone that it's all about the alliances that Eivor can build throughout the game. That's essentially the whole purpose, which is a really nice twist on the Assassin's Creed ethos. And of course, when Eivor tells Vili that he wants him to come and be part of his clan, he's more than happy. And when Tryggvi finds out that he's been chosen as Jarl, he's surprised but very, very happy and eager to accept. And I think this has been a very good outcome for everyone. So I feel like Ava's made a good decision here, and now it's time to turn our attention to the remaining story arcs. Completing this will open up a couple of more story arcs, one down in the West Country and one in a completely new part of the map altogether. So let's see how we get on.